So joining me today is one of my incredible coaching students, Derek, who's done over $1 million in GCI for both of the last 2 years. He's absolutely knocking it out of the park, and guess what? He's only 28 years old, based out of Seattle, and you're gonna love this episode, so let's watch. What is up, everybody? One of our new students, Derek, I'm gonna introduce him in just a second. His story is absolutely amazing. He's absolutely freaking crushing it in the commercial world. I don't take my hat off to a lot of people, but I have an unbelievable amount of respect for this guy, and he's got a cool story, young guy, and he's absolutely crushing it. We're going to learn a little bit of a story. So, Derek, thank you for coming on, my friend.
Absolutely, Henry. I appreciate you having me.
Of course. So, for the people who do not know who you are, which might be quite a few of my audience members, I'd love for you to do a little bit of an intro of kind of like where you're based out of, production volume, some numbers of last year, because I know your numbers are absolutely unbelievable. I want you to be able to humbly brag for a minute.
So, I'm located here in Seattle, Washington, born and raised about 25 minutes north of here in a town called Bothell. So, Seattle's all I know. I went to college here. I grew up here my whole life. Been working in the commercial real estate business here for almost about, I guess I started in mid-2017, so going on 6 years now. You know the story, just a typical working class, kind of lower middle class family up in Bothell. My dad, they instilled great work ethic in me, and my dad, he works at a local grocery store here in town, still does. My mom's a receptionist at a local law firm, and commercial real estate was never even on my mind. Graduating high school, didn't really know what I wanted to do. Went to University of Washington, kind of trying to find my way in life and everything, and then stumbled my way into commercial real estate kind of, halfway through my college career. I knew I wanted to make my own income and not have a ceiling on, what I could achieve in life. And we can dive into that. It's a deep story, but I knew I wanted to definitely make my own way in this life. So here I am.
Beautiful. Let's dive into your numbers real quick. So like in 2022, last year, your GCI was what?
1,222,000 last year.
Absolutely fucking knocking it out of the park.
It wasn't always that way, man. Yeah.
Yeah. But that's what I want to talk about. But I want to acknowledge you because high achievers don't talk about 1% of 1% does the numbers that we do. And it's important to point that out. So again, you're an all-star. I want to share your story a little bit more about what you did to go from, again, 6 years. How old are you now?
I'm 28 years old. Yeah.
28. At 28, within 6 years from 0 to over $1 million in GCI, which is absolutely freaking incredible. Most people don't do $1 million in GCI ever in their career. I want to talk about what was the beginning stages of your career like? Because I know you were saying that you kind of did that right out of college.
For sure. Unfortunately, a lot of this business is super archaic still. And that was kind of how I got brought up. I would graduate at UW. And then the following Monday, I got a phone on the desk and a computer, and they're like, go for it. So it was really sink or swim for me, which has its positives and has its pros and cons, obviously, because a lot of guys training and coaching is great and everything. But I think I got pushed so hard in deep end that I was kind of forced to make my way. Graduating college, I had maybe I had $1,500 to my name. Maybe it was like $700. Funny story, I interned at a local real estate firm here in Seattle my senior year in college and was working probably 12 hours a week because I was in college still, being a goofball, doing what I do in college. And they laid me off 6 months through it and sat me down, was like, you don't have what it takes to be a broker. And I think it was a turning point, huge turning point in my life, because I think it developed that chip on my shoulder and to kind of prove everyone else wrong and to prove all these guys who are all rich and come from rich families and everything, and kind of, their sons and their grandsons. Everyone was in the commercial real estate, and it's kind of a lineage, right? And so I kind of came in this thing cold and was like, F everyone, I'm gonna prove everyone wrong. So that was huge for me. That was a huge turning point in my life. So I think that kind of shock, and then I had no income coming in. I was eating rice and corn, no joke, and then would just go to bed early because I don't have to deal with dinner. So stuff like that, man. But I look back on it, it was beautiful times in my life, right? Because it built who I am today. So that kind of lit the fire into me, and then I went and joined a huge corporation called Savills, which has 35,000 people here in Seattle, over across the globe actually. But it was just getting its start here in Seattle, and I had to develop my book from the first contact. I had no contacts, no family members, no one's even in business, for that matter, no C-suite contacts or anything. So, and just for the viewers, I do tenant representation, which is I help companies and business owners lease office space and industrial space, really, and help them negotiate those leases for them. Yeah, had to start going grassroots and walking into office buildings, taking pictures of the directory, going floor by floor and, finding out what the businesses are, then going to LinkedIn, looking up the C-suite, and then using, Zoom info or whatever to get their contact information, but was doing it all myself, obviously. And one by one, started setting meetings and, made 27 grand my first year, nothing to write home about, but, and then 90K my next year. And then started getting across that 6-figure mark. And I was like, whoa, I made it, and then it went up from there. And then I crossed. I did a little over 1.1 last year or the year before. I mean, in 2021. And I contribute to working hard. I contribute to, obviously. I mean, I get up at 3:30 every day. I have for the last 7 years. There's just a lot of little stuff that goes into that, obviously. And then I'm a big mindset guy, big personal development guy. I read 52 books one year. I've done all the hacks and the secrets. You should go to. I'm a big follower of Grant Cardone, and all the guys in that space went to 10x Growth Con. So I was at my I'm surrounded by people in that space and listening to podcasts and everything. So I think everything just kind of started to compound over time, and I was consistent with it. I showed up every day. I worked weekends, and it wasn't pretty, but looking back, it was all worth it for sure.
I hope people are really paying attention to this, because like so much of what you're saying is like, it not only resonates with me because I feel like we have almost identical stories, which we've talked about before. I feel like there's just so many people who don't realize that like there is going to be a season of sacrifice. And it sounds like the last couple of years you really went through that season. I mean, obviously you've come out in this place, which is an amazing place now. And obviously, like, I can definitely relate to the earlier years in your career, because again, sounds very similar to mine. So I just want to say I have a lot of respect for you, and I'm proud of you of what you've accomplished. It's amazing, and I'm excited to see what we create together in the next few years, man. So I want to dive into a couple key parts. I feel like what you're doing is incredibly unique. Again, tenant representation on the commercial side is definitely not a simple side of the business, because I feel like you have a really good niche that I want people to hear this. For those of you who are struggling, listening to this and struggling on the tenant representation, let's talk about what you do on the lead gen side. Let's break it down really simple for somebody.
Yeah, I mean, literally, I do more industrial leasing now. So rather than the office, obviously the office isn't too well right now. But yeah, I'm going on, Google Maps. I'm looking on Google Earth and seeing what companies occupy what spaces. And I focus on a geography. So it's really about,
I'm going to break this down. So choosing a city. So number one, choose a city.
Choose a market. Yeah, you have to be a market specialist, because a lot of these meetings are going to be in person. I mean, they're all going to be in person a lot of the times with tenant rep, and you got to know the market, because you got to understand what spaces are available, who are the landlords, who the players are. And that's how you kind of get deals negotiated.
So I got number one, choose a market and make sure that you know that market better than anybody. Know what's available, the off-market product, the on-market product, the pricing. Now that you know the market, tell me how I'm prospecting for these people.
I've never been a referral guy or really even a networking guy. It gives me the heebie-jeebies to go to networking events, and I'm pretty introverted for the most part, and I'm terrible at getting referrals. So my whole strength is really cold calling and cold emailing and getting these prospects to know and trust me. But it all starts with that first appointment. And then obviously if there's a deal there, great. But if there's not, you either find a way to make a deal happen, or you stay in touch and you follow up, and it's all the basic stuff. And again, over time, everything compounds, and as long as you're consistent with it, but you're not going to hit any home runs overnight. I mean, it's going to take the average guy in the tenant rep business, it's going to take 12 months to get your first deal.
Let's get really granular for a second, because I want someone to be able to like literally go step by step, be able to represent somebody on the tenant side, right? So yeah, I like to choose the market. Number two, you said cold email, right? And then like obviously it's building a relationship, going to meet that person. But let's talk about that cold email for a second. Where do you find the information? I heard you say LinkedIn. I'd like you to talk about that. And then what do you say in that email?
To find the people, I go on LinkedIn. If they're small enough, I use the Secretary of State website here in Washington State. It actually has emails on phone numbers on it, which is awesome. I know other states don't, but everyone leases space for the most part. I mean, very few people own their buildings. Depends on what market you're in. But a lot of these tenants are on 5 or 10-year leases. So that's our sales cycle. So you can only, if you transact with a client, the next time you can make money on that deal is 5 years from now, typically, maybe even 10. So these sales cycles are super long. So you really need to nurture and develop that relationship with your contact. But to answer your question, on the email outbound, I use CoStar every day. I live on CoStar. I have a buddy at CoStar, and he says my usage is like top of the charts. I mean, I'm logging in at 4 a.m. and I'm just using the crowd. It's a wealth of knowledge, and a lot of brokers don't use it to their full capacity because it has a lot of good data in there, and then general comps and stuff in the area. But my whole thesis is basically like, hey, introduce myself. Hey, we're in the area. Hey, we just did this deal down the street. But if you're coming in truly cold, I guess I would just try to find a way to add value. I know how simplistic that sounds, but hey, this lease just got done down the street at X. And again, this isn't public knowledge. You see what they're paying. So, but if you look on CoStar, you can kind of say, hey, these guys signed a lease in 2018. Maybe they're up in 2023. I'm going to go with that and say, hey, I didn't know your lease is expiring next year. You're probably paying X. The renewal rate's probably going to be closer to Y. And then here's where we can get that down by 20 or 25% through our approach. How do you negotiate a lease is basically by giving them optionality and instituting leverage in the market. So if you're a tenant, you don't want to just go knock on your landlord's door and ask for a renewal because you're going to have no leverage. You want to go see options B, C, and D in your market and make sure you have a good plan B so you can actually fight hard for your landlord and get a good deal. But without any real leverage of moving, your landlord's just going to sandbag you oftentimes.
So much good information here. I love the cold email stuff. I love leveraging the software. Obviously, CoStar is one of the best softwares on the planet. I've always been a fan of CoStar and Reonomy. I don't feel like you can be in the commercial world without using either. Like you said, the website, the Secretary of State website, I thought that was really important to point out. That, like, you know, hey, listen, like this.
A lot of these warehouse guys don't have LinkedIn's, obviously, and they're small business owners, but you know, they're paying $60K a month in rent. Okay, that's a sizable commission because we get paid oftentimes, you know, anywhere from 5 to 2.5% to 5% of the gross lease obligation. So if a tenant signs a 5-year deal and they're paying $60K a month, I don't know, you can do the math, but yeah, it's a sizable fee. Each state has one, but again, I'm not sure how carefree they are with the information. But a lot of these guys, even if you have a startup in Seattle, you got to register with the Secretary of State, and a lot of these guys put their cell phones and their personal emails on there. So
let's shift gears a little bit. So I appreciate you sharing the secret sauce of the tenant representation side. So I want to talk a little bit about your mindset, because I know that I feel like we vibe a lot because we think alike in a lot of different ways here. Why do you feel like self-development is so important?
It's the foundation to everything. You're not going to have, I mean, your call, yes, you can read the right script, you can have the right tonality, but if your mind isn't right, your business is going to be very limited. I got really heavily invested, and I think that was a part of it because I had good mentors growing up. My football coach, and we were up at 5:15 a.m. Working out in the gym all through high school. So it started early there. And then in college, I worked for the University of Washington football team under Chris Peterson, who's a pretty legendary coach. He's like 112 wins, 8 losses or something ridiculous. And I saw how he interacted with the team and how it was more than football. It was about, you got to read here's these books. And he would give these guys these books like The Energy Bus or The Slide Edge by Jeff Olson. And he'd have the players read these books. And I'm like, what's this have to do with football? And then 2 years later, they're in the semifinals for the national championship playing Alabama. And I was just like, okay, this is the proof's in the pudding. And so I've always been big on that. And I think all areas of life matter. And, you know, career is one thing, business is one thing. If your buckets aren't full in other areas of life, it's going to affect you negatively at work. 100%. So I make sure that that bucket is always full and I'm consistently getting fed, because your environment's so important, who you surround yourself with, and the audio and the visual, everything you hear and see in life, it's all related. So, and I think the more you hear it, and it definitely compounds over time, and you're just surrounded and becomes a part of yourself.
Let's talk like really quick, because I like to be super tangible and granular for people, right? What are like maybe like your number one or maybe 2 points for mindset and self-development? So someone who's interested in bettering themselves, interested in working on their mindset, wants to be better in general. Maybe a book, or any type of pointers you give, even if you're talking to your younger self right now.
Yeah, I would definitely focus. So pick 1 or 2 guys. Maybe it's Grant Cardone, maybe it's Ed Bylett, maybe it's Alex Hormozy. You know, pick 1 or 2 guys and go all in on them. Because if you start listening to 12 or 15 guys and, you know, reading 50 books a year, no matter what people say, that's just not that effective. You really need to focus. And I think focus is one of the most underestimated words in the English language. Like if you understand focus and understand priority, you can get really ahead in life. And so I think picking 1 or 2 guys and going all in on them, obviously in the sales or the business realm, would be definitely helpful for, you know, guys in commercial real estate. I mean, and my biggest thing has been waking up early, and I mean, I do it on weekends. I haven't missed, I mean, knock on wood, but I haven't missed a day. I can count on my fingers how many days I've missed in the last 7 years of waking up in the 3s. And in the 3s, I say anywhere from 3 to 4 a.m. So if it's 3:55, it's in the 3s. And I do that every day. So, and what's part of that is just accountability and a lack of making excuses. So many people ask, well, if I want, you know, how many hours of sleep do you get? It's like, dude, that's a stupid question, because you're just looking for a way out. You're just looking for, you know, you're just you feel suffocated because you can't do it yourself, and you're finding a way out to justify it. So, I mean, I get 6 to 7 hours of sleep a night, but I know what my goals are, I know what my metrics are, and I'm dialed in. So
100%. How bad do you want to change, right? How bad do you want to change?
Yeah, only way to change is to change. Yeah.
I love that, man. Okay, cool. So I love we go all in and focus on a few, either one person or maybe 2 people, listen to all their content, go all in, learn everything, and implement at a high level. I like that. And then number 2, wake up early. I agree. Like, keep it freaking simple. Okay, so onto the coaching side of things. What had you interested? Like, why was coaching important to you? And like, what has been your biggest takeaway so far in the program?
I've never been really about coaching. I know I have a lot of people give me crap because I'm doing an Ironman next month, a full Ironman, and I can't swim or ride a bike until like 6 months ago. So I'm learning myself. But everyone's like, you should hire a swim coach. Yeah, I probably should. But I don't know. I've always been against it because I think I can do everything myself, which is not smart. So I did 1.1 and then I did 1.2 million. And I feel like, okay, Derek, this is a kind of a fork in the road where you can kind of plateau or you can look to go pro. And, every professional has a coach. Why would business be any different? You don't know everything, Derek. You taught yourself through books and YouTube and everything like that. But and you have accountability to yourself. But still, you need, one-on-one coach, and you need an expert to kind of get to that next level. And so that's how you and I got obviously introduced. And it's been great, man. I think that's really what's going to take you to, 1 to the 3 mil, to the 5 mil, to the 10 mil on a gross commission scale. So the only way you're going to do it is obviously just being relentless and being obsessed with your craft. And I think if you hire a coach, it's a lot easier to get obsessed with something because your ass is on the line.
Couldn't have said it better myself. I think that coaching has changed my life in more ways than just money. Everything that I am today is because of my mentors and my coaches. And again, I want to shift here because I feel like so many people that watch this content are at the beginning stages of their career, or maybe a few years in, and they're struggling to break either the 6-figure mark or maybe like the 250, 300 mark, right? Like they're really struggling in that beginning stages, right? And it's like us in the beginning of years of our career, we're like, I'm just never going to hit that 6-figure mark, or like I keep hitting the 250 range every single year, and I'm like, I want to make more. What are things that you've learned? I want to get your thoughts on this. Like, I really think you'd have an interesting perspective. Like, what do you feel like was that big change that got you past those two benchmarks?
That's the thing, man. I want people to understand this is that there is no overnight, hack. And I know you know this, Henry, but it was mass volume. It was mass activity those first 2 years. Without any results. That was my mindset. It's like, this isn't going to pan out. Or at least my mindset was, hey, I'm not quitting. I'm not going to hang up the towel, but I'm going to keep doing this until it works. But if you have the mindset of, well, I'm only going to do it until it works, but what if it never works? Okay, well, if you quit, it definitely won't work. So at least there's some upside on the second, on the form part of that equation. That was my whole thing. It was just mass volume, mass activity, like bump into traffic, like literally go door knock. And I door knocked all the time. I went down, there's a suburb called Bellevue. It's a bunch of high rises. I would literally go floor to floor, knocking on office tenants, knocking on the doors and introducing myself with business cards. This is like 2018. Like it's like, we're not like the 90s, right? So it's like, people are like, what the hell is this guy doing in my office? I'm fully suited up. Like, yeah, these tech companies are all like wide eyed and like, who the hell is this guy? But we've got a lot of deals out of that, right? Because a lot of this business, it's not rocket science by any means, but if you're top of mind, when that lease comes due and you're a respectful guy and you know what you're talking about for the most part, you're going to get that deal. And so it's more about staying around the hoop and just kind of being noisy and being active in the marketplace. But you have to understand that it's all volume the first 2 or even 3 years. Mass volume. I was doing 100 call days routinely when I first started. So obviously that's waned a little bit. I don't do those numbers anymore, which I probably should. I'm a little more sniper and dialed with my approach, but you need to get the reps in. I think reps are the key to everything. And I'm not a super strategic guy for the most part. I like kind of, hey, do this and, get this result. And so 100 calls a day, without a doubt, 100 outreaches a day, whether it's 100 emails, 100 calls, or both, it would be obviously better. And then knocking on doors, go introduce yourself to business owners. Like that's the way you're going to stir up stuff and get activity.
People often don't recognize that at the beginning of your career, you are taking a train, a 100-car train that's just sitting at the station, and you're pushing it to just get
trying to get it going.
Rolling.
Yeah,
that's it. Exactly. And there's nothing that's going to get those wheels turning more than just mass volume. Agreed. 100 call. I even like 100 conversation days. I think are just going to be really crucial. Yeah, really crucial to the kickstart of your career. And like, honest to God, I'd really like to even just challenge anybody listening to this right now. If you do 100 conversation days for 3 years straight, and I know that sounds astronomical, but to be honest, it's not, because if you want to make a lot of money, you're going to do something different than the majority. If you want to make 60,000, you get a corporate job. But if you want to make a substantial amount of money, several 6 figures, walking out of whether you have a degree or not, but making several 6 figures as a salesperson, have 100 conversations a day, Monday through Friday, minimally. Wake up before 6 o'clock in the morning. Do that for 3 years straight. And if you're not making more than 100,000 a year, I'd be baffled.
You'd be ahead of 99% of people. Yeah,
100%.
Understand that if you want to be the 1%, you can't live like the 99%, and you have to sacrifice weekends, and you can't, be going to drinks with your friends on Thursday night. It's going to be lonely, but that's the ticket, man.
Man, that's so freaking good. I agree. I also want to talk to somebody like in the earlier part of your career. Let's talk about like a younger version of you. Like if you had to go back day one and build everything that you've built over again, but I only gave you 12 months to do it, to go from nothing, day one of getting your license, to making $1 million plus in GCI. What are the first 3 moves that you make?
Probably go less is more approach and be like, okay, find the biggest 200 companies in my market or whatever it may be, and relentlessly and strategically pursue those guys, get dinner with them, like high ticket stuff, and nurture those prospects over long periods of time versus 5,000 companies. And, you make $2,000 on a commission here and there, and you're kind of sporadic and you don't have any focus. I'd focus on bigger ticket, and I would do a better job of nurturing. So focus and then bigger ticket versus spray and pray over wide geography and low ticket stuff.
I love this. So, because I want to dial into this for just 2 seconds. Okay. So focus on the top 200. I love that. And real quick, because I want to shift this perspective really fast also on the sales side, right? Like, so I like on the tenant representation, which is super important for people to pay attention to. For tenant rep, focus on the top 200 companies in a marketplace. And then you said second would be what? I want to make sure we get this clear.
We'll develop like a campaign, develop a system of introducing yourself to that person. Maybe it's a call, voicemail, email. It's develop some sort of cadence until you make contact with that person, even if it is a F you or no thanks. Now they're on the spectrum, right? They're from no, here's yes. Okay, now they're on the spectrum, and you can kind of slide them over time. That's where you want to be. And by the end of that period, whether it's 5 years, you're getting dinner with this guy, you know everything about him. He knows you, your family, he knows every in and out of you. So, which is possible for every person. Just reverse engineer that of you sitting at the table with him at a Four Seasons dinner. You're sitting at the table across from this guy, and you guys are talking about nothing real estate related. Reverse engineer that conversation. How do you get there? And obviously that's a ton of, adding value, and it's going to take a long time, but I would focus on, bigger ticket clients for sure. Negotiating a deal for a 2,000 square foot office user is the same as negotiating, for the most part, a 30,000 square foot office deal. Except the 2,000 has a little bit more emotion involved, and it feels more like residential.
I want to break this down. So you said focus on the top, the best players in your market, biggest businesses in your market.
Yeah.
Develop a cadence / process in which you're going to reach out to them. So a prospecting strategy.
Over time, and every 2 weeks, every 6 weeks, whatever it is, develop a specific plan of reaching out to that person.
Beautiful. And then focus on the higher
commission accounts or whatever. Yeah.
Higher, bigger accounts. I love that. Now I'm just going to relate that on the sales side so people can hear this as a step-by-step, because I think this is important for people to pay attention to too. So on the sales side, I think it's important for people to realize that focus on there's in New Jersey as an example, our bread and butter is really the $2 to $10 million range, because the 50 million plus in our area, right, transacts a little bit slower, and they're much more secluded people to try to get into those relationships. We try to stick to a bread and butter burn and turn price point of the 2 to 10 range. A lot of product sells between, the sub 2 million range, but it's just, again, like you were saying, to the smaller deals, you're prospecting a gajillion 2 families to 7 unit deals. Right. And, you might as well just focus on a little bit higher of a price point. Love that. Build up a lead generation strategy. I think the lead gen strategy across the board, like we said, 100 conversations a day, regardless of what you're prospecting, I think is a minimum metric period. I just love that way that you kind of I like how you put the relationship first. I think that's really important. Curious to get your thoughts, because I want other people to hear this. What I've recommended in the past is lunches and coffee meetings are just as valuable as dinners sometimes, because at the beginning of your career, some of these people don't have a lot of money. I think that's just interesting to point out. I agree, Four Season dinners today for you and I might be a little bit simpler to tackle, but for people at the beginning of their careers, I want them to know that I've gotten a Starbucks for my client and brought it to their office, and we had just
one of the best ways to get a meeting. What's your favorite Starbucks drink?
Last thing I want to talk about, and then we're going to rock and roll. For somebody who's they either think the coaching is a stretch on cost, or they have all these blockers in their mind. They're I can do it myself. Just all the same things that you and I have said in the past, where I'm not an idiot. I can learn this stuff on YouTube. I don't need a coach. It would be a nice to have, or maybe it's too expensive for me right now. What would you say to that person?
Building wealth, yes, materialistic is one part, but people and network and adding people into your circle is the true way to build wealth. Because again, you can have $1 million, you can have 1 million connections. 1 million connections is going to be a lot more valuable. You can be alone on your yacht, or you can be surrounded by people who can get you in any door in the world. And that's how the big players think. And that's really what you need to change your mindset to be, because you don't know everything, or else you would be making this kind of money. So obviously there's a gap in knowledge there. You need to wrap your head around that and come correct, and know that I can learn a thing or two. And again, it's not going to be one and done. It's not, hey, I had one session, I didn't get any value out of it. It's if the end of you went to college, one class isn't going to change your life. I don't put a lot of value on college. Maybe that's a bad example, but yeah, one course isn't going to make you a master at certain subject.
Well, I couldn't have said it better myself, man. I mean, like, listen, I just want to say for everyone who's watching right now, anybody who's looking for, space or looking to do anything in, the Seattle area, Derek is the man. He will absolutely not only take great care of your clients, but reach out to Derek. I mean, like, he's definitely an incredible resource and also just an even better person. I'm excited to see what you create, man. Again, last thing, I guess, just for the audience real fast before we sign off here is how do people get in touch with you?
Best way to find me is definitely on LinkedIn, Derek Peterson. You can also find me on Instagram though, Derek Peterson 3. And then feel free to email me, Derek@hughesmarino.com, HUGHES Marino, MARINO.com. I'm super responsive on there. If I don't respond within an hour, that's not going to happen. So,
and we'll be sure to have all of your contact information down in the description down below so everyone can check you out. Derek, I appreciate you.
one more thing, Henry, if it's okay.
Sure.
That came to my mind that has helped me tremendously is that I got these calendars in my office. You can't really see, but it's covered with green W's and red L's. And so I have my metrics every single day. Usually it's 3 metrics: calls, conversations, or email output. Every day I do my stuff, it's a green W. Every day I don't, it's a red L. And it just is a masterful way to hold yourself accountable.
What's your minimum metric that you put? What's your minimum metric?
I mean, I'm doing weak numbers these days, but I'm doing 20 calls a day. I'm doing 11 hours in the office, and then I'm doing a one hour exercise, which doesn't have to relate to work, but those are my 3 metrics I'm tracking right now for this season in my life. But make your own metrics and then put up a wall calendar and then mark stack W's, man, stack W's, because that's the only way you're going to get ahead. And you'll look back on the year and be like, wow, either it's going to be bloody red and you're going to have a terrible year, but at least you'll know why, because you didn't do what you said you were going to do.
Derek, you've been nothing but a wealth of knowledge today, and just always a great guy to chat with. I appreciate you so very much for coming on. Again, for those of you watching, make sure you check out all of Derek's, not only his content, but make sure you reach out to him because, again, he's a wealth of knowledge. So other than that, guys, I hope you have an awesome session. Put down in the comment section down below any questions you guys have for me, myself, and or for Derek. We'll make sure we'll try to get everything answered. Other than that, guys, we'll see you guys next time. Take care, everyone.
Have an awesome day. See ya.
If you're still watching this video, that means to me that you're a committed real estate agent and you're looking to take your life and business to the next level. I'm just curious, why have you yet to schedule your free, no obligation coaching consultation? All you have to do is simply go in the description down below, and people are telling me this call has been the most unbelievable, the most powerful call they've had in their entire career. And here's just a few of the individuals who have taken full advantage of this call. And my mission is to support as many realtors as possible, build a 6- and 7-figure net income business so that they don't have to rely on this industry anymore for their everyday income. If you're a committed realtor, which I can seem like you are, all you have to simply do to take full advantage of this free coaching consultation is to go in the description down below and schedule your free call now.